bishop's bird stump had stood on a wrought iron stand in front of the parclose screen of the Smith's chapel. I picked my way over the rubble, trying to work out where I was. Only the outer walls of the cathedral and the tower, with its beautiful spire, were still standing. Everything else, the roof, the vaulted ceiling, the clear-story arches, the pillars, had come crashing down into one giant, unrecognizable heap of blackened rubble. All right, I thought, standing on top of a roof beam. That was the apse, and along there was the draper's chapel, although there was no way to tell except by the blown-out windows. The stone arches had come down, and there was only the bayed wall left. And here was the St. Lawrence Chapel, I thought, scrabbling over the rubble on my hands and knees. The clutter of stone and charred beams was 5 feet high in this part of the cathedral, and slippery. It had drizzled off and on all day, turning the ash to blackish mud and making the lead slates from the roof as slick as ice. The Girdler's Chapel, and this must be the Smith's Chapel. There was no sign of the parclose screen. I tried to judge how far from the windows it would have stood, and started digging. The bishop's bird stump wasn't underneath the mass of twisted girders and broken stone, and neither was the parclose screen. A broken-off length of kneeling rail was, and part of a pew, which meant I was too far out into the nave. I stood up, trying to orient myself. It's amazing how much destruction can distort the sense of space. I knelt down and looked up the church toward the choir, trying to spot the base of any of the north aisle pillars to see how far out into the nave I was, but they were hopelessly buried. I needed to find where the arch had been and work from there. I looked back up at the Girdler's Chapel's east wall, aligned myself with it and the windows, and started digging again, looking for the supporting pillar of the arch. It had been broken off 6 inches from the floor. I uncovered the space around it, then, sighting along it, tried to estimate where the screen would have been and started digging again. Nothing. I heaved up a jagged piece of the wooden ceiling, and under it was a giant slab of marble, cracked across. The altar. Now I was too far in. I sighted along the new recruit again, who was still watching Mr. Spivins dig, paced off 10 feet, and started digging again. "But we are from the AFS," I heard Carruthers say to the verger. "Are you certain you're with the AFS?" the verger said. "Those coveralls don't look like any AFS uniform I've ever seen." He wasn't having any of it, and no wonder. Our uniforms had been intended for the middle of an air raid, when anyone in a tin helmet can pass for official, and for the middle of the night. Daylight was another matter. Carruthers' helmet had a Royal Engineers insignia. Mine was stenciled ARP, and the new recruit's was from another war altogether. "Our regular uniforms were hit by a high explosive," Carruthers said. The verger didn't look convinced. "If you're from the fire service, why weren't you here last night when you might have done some good?" An excellent question, and one that Lady Shrapnel would be sure to ask me when I got back. "What do you mean you went through on the 15th, Ned?" I could hear her asking. "That's a whole day late." Which was why I was scrabbling through smoking roof beams, burning my finger on a still-melted puddle of lead that had dripped down from the roof last night, and choking on masonry dust instead of reporting in. I pried up part of an iron reinforcing girder, nursing my burnt finger, and started through the heap of roof slates and charred beams. I cut the finger I'd burnt on a broken-off piece of metal and stood up, sucking on it. Carruthers and the verger were still at it. "I've never heard of any post-36, the verger said suspiciously. "The AFS posts in Coventry only go up to 17. "We're from London," Carruthers said. "A special detachment sent up to help out." "How'd your lot get through?" the verger said, picking up his shovel aggressively. "The roads are all blocked." It was time to lend assistance. I went over to where they were standing. "We came round Radford way," I said.